folks, you are very welcome to the first Festival Focus of 2023. No David Mullins this week, but stepping off the subs bench in a blaze of glory, one of racing's most popular and recognisable figures, it is John Joseph Hanlon, aka Welcome the Shark. How are you getting on, Shark?
Super. If the rain could ever stop in Ireland, we'd be flying, but it's flooding the whole place at the moment over here.
Well, you look like you need a wash, so maybe it's the environment's way of giving you a tip in the right direction. Listen, we've got 7 names to go through in the usual Festival Focus style, but first up, I think what people really want to know where the Shark is concerned, not your New Year's resolution, not what did you have for breakfast, but what did Hewick have for breakfast? How is the star of Sedgefield, of Sandown, and of Far Hills, the Durham National, the Whitbread, and the American National winner? How is he? Where is he? What's he up to, Hewick?
He's back for the last 10 days there. He was on the walker for the first couple of days, and he's been ridden out every morning now. Paddy's have to ride him out every morning, but he's back to school today. So, but the horse is in great form. He came back looking amazing. So he did. I'd say that he came back looking better than he ever looked before. So, but I think it was the sun and Far Hill started, and then he went back up to the owners, and they looked after him very well. But he's in really good form, and pulling something that he never done before because he's just fresh. But I couldn't be happier with him.
John, you've never been a man who's afraid to aim for the stars and shoot high, with very, very good horses under your care, the likes of, you think of the real stars down the years at various levels, Hidden Cyclone, Camlawn, Hallowed Star nowadays. But with this Hewick, do you really deep down genuinely believe that despite the fact that bookies will offer you big prices, this lad can turn up in Cheltenham the 3rd week of March and make an impact and win some prize money, or even go and claim some big scalps and win the Gold Cup?
Well, listen, I suppose we're a good bit away from March yet, and there's a lot of racing to be done still, and there's a lot of good horses there, but including my own horse, he's probably dependent on the ground a bit, right? And I know that if the ground came good, which in Cheltenham it usually does, it usually comes good later on in the week. And I just think there's a few horses in it that 2 good horses in it, Giggstown horse there, and Paul has a couple, and Willie has a few. But like on good ground, I'm happy enough to take any of them on.
Good man, never knowingly undersold. Fingers crossed for Hewick. What is the plan? Go straight to Cheltenham, or might you tee him up with a little spin over perhaps hurdles, perhaps fences beforehand?
I tell you, he's back in. We'll have to see how he is. If I think he'll need a run, I'll probably give him a run at the end of February there. But I don't think my plan is to go straight to Cheltenham. So it is. And listen, there's some of them horses in it that are very good horses, including our own horse. But there's a few of them, like if I met him with a cut in the ground, they'd definitely beat me. But I think on a good ground surface, you have Brave Man's Game, you have Gordon's good horse, belonged to Giggstown, won over the weekend. You have a few of them, and you have Willie's horse, which looks very good. But does he stay? So I'm happy enough to go and take my chance. Well,
Shark, as ever, I wish you health, wealth, success, and good luck for all your team, but particularly Hewick in 2023. May the Gold Cup gods shine on him if he turns up in Cheltenham in peak form, which I'm certainly will. Now then, the usual traditional idea of Festival Focus is to run the rule over the headline performances from the last 7 days or so. That's usually the gist and the gig for David Mullins as myself. You've kindly agreed to step in. So cast your mind back, if you will, to day 4 at Leopardstown. The mare, Shewearsitwell. Now, go back to last July when she pulled up in Galway in the Galway hurdle. Yeah. I didn't think we'd be having this conversation, but for whatever reason, she's bloomed this winter. She won a Pertemps race at Punchestown, and then switching at Leopardstown back into graded company. You think she readily beat Queens Brook, who, don't forget, last March was second herself in the mare's hurdle. Now, the winner, Shewearsitwell, She's only just turned 8 years of age. Would that be enough to convince you, Punchestown and Leopardstown, that she might now develop into mare's hurdle material at Cheltenham? She's a big spread of prices, shortest 8-1, biggest 20-1. She wears it well for the mare's hurdle. Yes, no, maybe?
I'd rather lay her than back her. I think that she's a very good mare, and but you said something there. She pulled up in Galway on goodish ground. Now, her runs in Leopardstown are all with a cut in the ground. I think she's a lot better mare with a cut in the ground than she is on good ground. And like, we don't usually get soft ground in Cheltenham now. Now, if the ground came soft in Cheltenham, okay, you'd have to think about it, right? But I just think that on good ground, I'd rather be laying her than backing her.
Okay, if you're not convinced by her, stick with the Leopardstown Thursday card. Gaillard Du Mesnil. What a way for any horse to open their account over fences than with a decisive strike, I think it's fair to say, in Grade 1 company in the 3-mile Neville Hotels Novice Chase. If you think that this horse was third last year at Cheltenham, he's also gone off favourite for an Irish national when he was third, and Willie Mullins, no less, suggesting that he'll have absolutely no problems with a few extra furlongs. With that high praise in mind, bookies will go no bigger than 2-1 for the 3 3/4 mile National Hunt Chase. Is Gaillard Du Mesnil the answer for the National Hunt Chase?
He looks a real stayer. And I'd said the hill, everything will fit into his barra so well. And he's won. I think the bookies are right this time now. I think everything, a safe journey around, is that one they all have to beat. I wouldn't like to be laying him.
Good answer, I think. His stablemate, and of course one of your neighbours, Willie Mullins, has got a horse called State Man, who's now racked up 5 wins in a row over hurdles, 3 Grade 1s already accumulated. He's already won a handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. And yet, amazingly, this young horse has barely got any miles on the clock. His win at Leopardstown looked straightforward. It looked unfussy, uncomplicated. And as well, this young horse has only just turned 6 years of age, Shark. He's 4 or 5-1, depending on where you shop around for the champion hurdle. And what I find really interesting is that if you believe that as a barometer, it's him, State Man, and not Honeysuckle, twice a winner of the champion, who's rated the biggest danger to Constitution Hill. Is that to be taken seriously? Is State Man, based upon what we've seen, the biggest threat to the English horse Constitution Hill?
He's a very, very good horse. Geez, he's after doing everything right this year. He's won 5 this season. Leopardstown, Grade 1s, everywhere you wanted to go. But I just think that if Honeysuckle come back, I'd say that's what Nicky would be afraid of more than this lad. I think that Nicky, if Honeysuckle comes back, and people are knocking Honeysuckle, but I haven't her knocked, and I won't knock her. The last day, probably over a trip that was that little bit too far. And as I said, if you turned off the clock at the 2 mile the last day, she was a winner everywhere. And with Henry going back, he'd probably go back again this year. Now go in February to Champion or to Leopardstown, and I'll be very interested to see what happens in Leopardstown. Now this horse is very good, but I'd say Nicky Henderson and the only one he'd be afraid of is Honeysuckle. I would be anyway.
Well, Shark, it's fascinating because David Mullins, my usual co-pilot, has used this space to be a really, really fervent supporter of Honeysuckle, saying whatever you do, do not write her off just yet. You're on the same page. Right, Leopardstown is wrapped up. Let's switch our attentions 48 hours later to Newbury last Saturday, New Year's Eve. And it was, of course, Challow Hurdle Day, the Grade 1 at Newbury, a race that Paul Nicholls, no less, has now won 3 years on the bounce, because go back to 2020, Brave Man's Game, go back 12 months ago to Stage Star, and now go back just a few days to Hermes Allen, a horse who, well, he had his rider purring I love the way Harry Cobden was talking about this youngster afterwards, because he was hands and heels to win by 5 lengths. And Cobden himself, who's having a brilliant season, said, and these are his words, not mine, he's as good a novice as I've ever ridden. That was his assessment. The bookies were impressed as well. They make him 4-1 favourite now for the Ballymore Novices Hurdle. Shark, do you like this Hermes Allen? And particularly poignant, I think, given that we get to talk to you with your observation daily of the Irish scene, how does he stack up against, say, for example, a Gaelic Warrior or a Facile Vega? Do you like this Hermes Allen?
Yeah, Harry Cobden, in fairness, he can't talk highly enough of this horse, but he hasn't seen the Irish ones yet, and I think he'll get a heart attack when he do meet a couple of them. Like when you see Willie's horse there, Gaelic Warrior in Tramore, like I think he won 60 or 70 lengths. He would have done more at home on the gallop than he done in Tramore. And Willie often goes to Tramore with a good horse to give him a good confidence boost coming back. I just think I think he's very good. Paul Nichols, he thinks he's very good. But I think Gaelic Warrior, he'll be one in my tracker for Cheltenham anyway. I think he's a top class horse.
Interesting. There'll be a few English punters shaking their heads and wringing their hands when they hear you say that. It is a game of opinions. Also, plenty of opinions going around about a very, very talented mare, the reigning champ in the Mares' Hurdle at Cheltenham, Marie's Rock, who reappeared at Cheltenham on Sunday in the Grade 2 Railkeel Hurdle against the boys, but she made fairly light work of them. She, off the back of that, is now 4-1 for her defence of that Mares' Hurdle crown at Cheltenham. But the key question here, Shark, how does she stack up against Honeysuckle? You've already told us it's unclear thus far where will Honeysuckle go. But let's just say that the pair were to meet. If you had the option as a trainer of saddling for the Mares' Hurdle over that trip, Honeysuckle or Marie's Rock, which one would you be wanting to put the saddle on and put the girth around their tummy? Would it be Honeysuckle? Would it be the reigning champ, Marie's Rock?
Marie's Rock has done nothing wrong, has won in Cheltenham plenty of times. She's won the champion hurdle last year. She's won in Punchestown. She came over to Punchestown and she won and was very good in Punchestown. I think she won 2 or 3 lengths going away in Punchestown. But if Honeysuckle turns up here, there's only one winner. There's only one winner. And I mean that.
Say no more. Fast forward to the same card, but a very different proposition. Pat Neville's The Real Whacker. Now, one of the absolute key ingredients of horse racing, and why do we fall in love with it? Well, racing loves an underdog, let's be honest. And Pat Neville has this Real Whacker, which could be a real developing story. He's a perfect 2 from 2 over fences. Both of his wins, the Real Whacker, have come at Cheltenham. And it's probably understandable, I would suggest, that the bookies now put him in at 16-1 for the Brown Advisory or 33-1 for the Turner Novices Chase. Shark, what did you make of the Real Whacker, particularly his jumping?
He's an unreal jumper. He's as good a jumper as in Ireland or in England. And Paddy Neville is a very, very shrewd fella. He went over there to England only a year ago probably, and took out his license over there because Ireland is very hard. It's hard to get the right owners, and he's after getting a few nice owners and he went over. He's done everything right. He's after doing everything right with this horse. And the Brown Advisory is 16-1. Probably if I had him, that's where he'd go. But Paddy knows his horse, and he's as good a judge as in Ireland or England, and he'll make the right choice. I think he's entered 3 or 4 times over there, but he's jumping like he get into a rhythm and jumping there in the Brown Advisor. I tell you one thing, it'll take a fair one to beat him. You know, I think at 16-1, he's a big price for the race.
Well, that's great to hear, because I think it just proves once again, and we've had some brilliant underdog stories down the years. And as I say, this might be another one, because if you think back down the years, particularly, I think back to 2017 and presenting Percy coming from the West for Crockwell, for Athenry, winning the Pertemps, going back and winning the RSA. You see the way in which the punters attach themselves to that. This might be the next story. And Paddy Neville, as you say, loads of experience. What was he? Probably 15 years training in Ireland, digging out some good performances, grafting away. But he seems to be getting a bit more luck now. He's in the UK.
Yeah, listen, he has better owners since he went to the US. He in Ireland, it's very hard to get within them top 10 owners. And when you're not in them top 10 owners, you're down with the 0 to 95ers, 102s, 116s. And Paddy, in fairness, he put his hand on his head and he said, I'm going. And it's going to either work or it's not. I remember talking to him at the time, and he said, maybe I'll be back, and if I do my tail between my legs. But he's after going the very opposite way. So he's after showing that he can train horses over there. And he's entitled to look he gets. He tries very hard. And any man that tries as hard as Paddy deserves to get a few nice owners. And by God, if he wins in Cheltenham, I'll be one of the first lads in the ring to cheer him on, because the last day we were in Cheltenham, my young lad led up the horse for him that won. And we've been friends with Paddy all our lives. And but to be a great dream, for Paddy, to be a dream for racing. If Paddy could go over and have a winner there, so it would, and it'd be a great help to him in his business over there. I know he's the yard taken, he's plenty of stables. I was only talking to him the other day. I think he has 21 or 2 horses, and he has more stables and he deserves to fill them.
Yes or no? Is Paddy Neville able for a night out on the tiles with the Shark?
I tell you what, he'd leave me on the ground.
Blimey, he must be some man. Yes or no? Is Tom Lee able for a night out with the Shark?
He'd come out with Johnny. I'm not sure if he'd come home with you.
He'd be asleep after an hour, I'd say that, lad. Moving swiftly on, there is one more name to discuss, Shark, because Sunday at Tramore, the race that really should be called the Album Photo Chase, but it is, of course, the Savills Chase, year in, year out, targeted by Willie Mullins. It wasn't his for the keeping this time around, because we all know it's not easy to get an old clock to tick again. But the mighty Manila Indo, officially 10 years of age and back to winning ways after beating Statler by a neck in a good finish. This horse's backstory is amazing, because I was at Cheltenham the day he won the Albert Bartlett at 50 to 1. 12 months later, second to champ in the RSA. He's won a Gold Cup. He's been runner-up in a Gold Cup. You could send him round there blindfolded and he'd probably still be placed. 20 to 1 for a third Gold Cup attempt. Place prospects, or is that just romantic nonsense?
I tell you, this horse has never been out with the first 2 in Cheltenham. I don't know how many times he's ran, but he's never been out with the first 2.
He's incredible.
He's an incredible horse. A fair dues to Henry to get him back to do what he done the other day in Tramore. I thought going to Tramore that he'd be second, but he battled out, so he did. But the other thing about him for a Gold Cup, he's a 10-year-old, and there's a lot of nice young horses coming up, and you'd just be worried that he could be gone a little bit over the top. But still, he loves Cheltenham. He'll never be too far away.
Well, of course, we've got Hewick on good ground with an each-way chance, as you told us, and your normal correspondent in the Shark seat is David Mullins, who will not hear of defeat for Galopin Des Champs. Shark, thank you as always. You've been brilliant and generous with your time. A late Christmas present, because the festival-focused team would like to compensate you for your time by giving just a modest donation, a couple of €100, to a charity of your choice, to say thank you very much for joining us this week. Shark Hanlon's favoured charity for us to give €200 to would be?
The Poor Clares in Carlow here beside me. They're there for years and they're only barely surviving, and they're very good people. And I would love to give them a couple of £100 there. To be brilliant.
Consider it done. That will be our absolute pleasure. Ladies and gents, once again, this has been with a very special guest edition of the Shark Festival Focus. David and I will be back in the usual spot next week. Shark, thank you. Thanks, folks at home, for watching, for listening. We'll be back very soon. Good luck. Goodbye.
Well done. Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
Cheers, Shark.